Reds.
Black Rifle Coffee Company is on a mission to build a support network for veterans, first responders, and law enforcement by serving you the best coffee you've ever had. Thanks to your support, that dream has become a reality. This year alone, Black Rifle Coffee donated over 120,000 bags of coffee to veterans and first responders, while expanding their own team of active duty service members, veterans, and veteran family members. If you want to continue supporting this incredible company, go to blackriflecoffee.com and use promo code Jordan at checkout for 10% off your purchase and your first coffee club order. Black Rifle Coffee is roasted by a veteran-led team of expert coffee graders here in the U.S. And remember, it's your support that gets gear, funding, and supplies into the hands of those on our front lines. The producers of the show, myself included, love Black Rifle Coffee and find it the perfect go-to for the morning commute to work as well as work itself. Black Rifle Coffee gives us the boost we need, expertly mixing bold flavor and that much-needed kick of caffeine. So go to blackriflecoffee.com and use promo code Jordan for 10% off. You can also find Black Rifle Coffee in grocery and convenience stores near you. Black Rifle Coffee, America's coffee, and our preferred blend to enjoy alongside the Jordan B.Peterson podcast.
Are torn off and the blood spurts out. And that's why the crowd was there, because it was so much more appealing than the silly little Mario Brothers stuff. And it just struck me as the beginning of my interest in what people do, especially young males, when they have time on their own. So if it's not porn, then it seems like it's violence, and it's somewhat horrifying, but it's gotten worse. I don't know if you've been following the video games that are now available on your home computer. You don't need to go to an arcade and be embarrassed by what you're playing, because you can sit at home and play whatever games you want. And so now, what's it called? Grand Theft Auto. You can kill innocent bystanders, step on their heads, etc. And there are actual torture sites where you can go and torture people. You can torture animals. It's all there. And so people are paying to do this stuff. They pay for violent sports. They pay for violent movies. What's the most popular television program these days? It's called Game of Thrones, and it's the most sadistic kind of television program that you've ever seen. People are paying for this in one way or another, and they're attracted to it. They relay stories with their friends. So putting this picture together suggested to me that some, not all, in fact, the variance again is there, which excites a personality researcher. Some people are highly attracted to this stuff. Other people are horrified.
I know that neurophysiologically, anger is a multidimensional emotion. It activates positive emotion systems and negative emotion systems simultaneously. And so you can think about that perhaps as the core element of something like aggression, at least maybe both defensive and predatory aggression. And then you could imagine that people are wired differently as individuals, so that for any given person, being angry might be associated with a predominance of approach motivation, right? Positive emotion, and a relative decrement of negative emotion. And for other people, that would be reversed. Like, I'm trying to account for what the positive pleasure is in the observation or participation in the aggression. I mean, you could associate it with, hypothetically, you could associate it actually with predatory behavior, with hunting and with combat, but it also might be a consequence of differential wiring at the neurological level in relationship to the balance between positive and negative emotion experienced by any given person with anger. Because you see this variation in people, I mean, I know some people who are real fighters, let's say on the political front, and some of them really enjoy a good scrap, right? It really seems to get them motivated. And this isn't a criticism of them necessarily. And then other people, and I think I fall more into this camp, I'm not really very interested at all in conflict. It bothers me a lot although I don't like delayed conflict, so I'm likely to engage in it, relatively upfront. But so we could go into that. Like, what do you think is the fundamental biological and then also ethical difference between people who are taking positive delight in aggression and those who aren't? And well, I guess we could start with those questions.
Yeah, that's the fundamental query, a puzzle in a way. Why would human beings have to have a sadistic side, at least some people? And as you mentioned, predatory very often. So one can speculate that it helps animals, carnivores especially, hunt if they not only are willing but enjoy the killing, and that could have been carried over to human beings. Also, a little more instrumental explanation would be that it helps dominance. That is, if you can scare off your competitors, whether they're competitors for mates or for territory, then being sadistic about it.
That would be a niche theory in some sense, I guess, is that I know that the worldwide prevalence of psychopathy ranges between 1% and 5%, hovers around 3%. And what it seems to indicate, because it's relatively stable, is that although being a psychopath isn't a particularly successful strategy, in that 97% of people don't take that route, in a cooperative society, a niche does open up for people who are willing to use manipulation and impulsive behavior and sadism to dominate and use power oppressively to at least, what would you say, carve out for themselves some degree of success, and then now and then some spectacular success, I suppose, which would be the case with people who are extraordinarily successful at being tyrants. And so we have two arguments there in some sense. One is like a neurobiological difference in response to the balance of positive and negative emotion in anger. And the other one is, well, there's a niche that opens up for people who are willing to use power and manipulation and so forth to attain the rewards of social dominance. And psychopaths seem to do that, right? Because they'll manipulate. They often have to move from place to place because people figure them out. But they will use short-term dominant strategies. I think you've related that too as well, the dark triad, to short-term mating strategies as well, right? Which is that's another thing that we could concentrate on, right, on what the dark triad predicts. The dark tetrad interested me particularly because the literature I read on psychopaths